Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've got a hefty stack of source material here on PayPal's Q3 2025 performance.
A lot to unpack, definitely.
And we're ready to, really dig in. The headlines are certainly grabbing attention, raised guidance, a new dividend.
Yeah, the dividend's a big one.
But our mission today, for you, is to go beyond just those numbers. We want to figure out how PayPal actually pulled this off. Which strategies are really working? And maybe, most importantly, why did their overall transaction volume actually drop while things like profit seem to soar?
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive.
It does, and that's really the core puzzle, isn't it? When you look at the whole picture, this quarter was about, I'd say, accelerating profitable growth, and like I said, a real sense of strategic confidence.
Okay.
This deep dive really shows they're making a very deliberate shift, focusing on profitable, high-quality engagement. It seems like they're pretty much done chasing raw volume if the margin isn't there.
Right. So less focus on just more transactions, more on the right transactions.
Exactly. And that clear strategy, that momentum, that's what let them raise the guidance for the full year. They feel good about where they're heading.
So the key insight we pulled out for you is that apparent contradiction. Guidance up, dividends started, yet total transaction numbers down. If you just saw that drop, you might think, the business is shrinking. But the real story, what the sources suggest, is that this decline was actually maybe a calculated success.
I think that's a good way to put it, like trimming the fat, surgically removing that low-value activity that was maybe weighing them down.
Okay, let's get into the numbers first, the foundations. Give us the big picture stats.
Sure. So total payment volume, TPV, that hit $458.1 billion. That's up 8% year over year, or 7% if you adjust for currency, FXN.
Solid growth.
And revenue. Net revenues came in at $8.4 billion. That grew 7%, or 6% FXN. So, steady, decent growth on the top line.
But you mentioned the focus isn't just revenue, it's profitability, what they actually keep.
Precisely. And the metric to watch there is transaction margin dollars, TMLA, is basically what's left after they pay for the transaction itself.
A measure of the core platform's health, essentially.
Exactly. And TML, if you exclude the interest they earn on customer balances, grew a very healthy 7% to $3.55 billion.
So that shows those pricing changes and the focus on higher value stuff is working. It's boosting the actual operational profit.
That's the takeaway. It strengthens their core operational muscle.
And with strong operational muscle comes cash, right? How do they do on free cash flow?
Phenomenally well, actually. Adjusted free cash flow, FCF, hit $2.3 billion. That's up a huge 48% compared to last year.
Wow, 48% growth in FCF. That's significant.
It really is. It speaks volumes about how stable the core is becoming and their ability to invest while also returning capital.
Which I guess leads directly to the raised guidance that got the market excited.
Absolutely. For the full year, 2025, they're now expecting non-GAAP earnings per share, EPS, to grow 15% to 16%.
And that's up from, what, 11, 14% before?
That's right. A significant jump in expectations. They're feeling confident. And they also reaffirmed their FCF guidance for the year, still expecting $6 billion to $7 billion.
Okay, so the financial health looks robust. Strong profit, massive cash flow, raised guidance.
Yep.
Now, let's tackle that confusing part, the great purge, as we called it earlier. If everything's going so well, why did total payment transactions fall 5%? And transactions per active account, PPA, also down 6%. That sounds bad.
It does sound bad on the surface, and that's the central piece you need to understand. It's strategic. That drop isn't a sign of failure. It's them deliberately cutting out unprofitable activity.
Okay.
Here's the aha moment. The decline is entirely, or almost entirely, driven by the payment service provider PSP side of the business.
Explain that distinction again, PSP versus branded. What's the difference for the listener?
Okay, think of it like this. The branded experience is when you, the shopper, see and click the PayPal button or use the Venmo QR code at checkout. PayPal owns that interaction, manages the risk, gets better data, and captures higher value.
Got it. That's the core PayPal experience most people know.
Right. PSP, on the other hand, is more like PayPal acting as the invisible plumbing behind the scenes for a merchant's own checkout. It's processing card payments, but the customer might not even know PayPal is involved. It's a lower margin business.
Okay, so it's payment processing, but without the PayPal brand front and center.
Exactly. And they decided some of that PSP volume just wasn't worth it from a profit perspective. They made price to value adjustments.
So they deliberately let go of some low margin plumbing work.
Yeah.
What happens if you filter that out? What does the core branded business look like?
It completely flips the script. If you exclude those PSP transactions, the number of core payment transactions actually increased by a healthy 7%.
Oh, wow.
And a TPA, how often their engaged branded customers are using them, that increased 5%.
So the core users are actually more active. The decline was just noise from shedding the less valuable stuff.
Precisely. It confirms the strategy is working. They're improving the quality of their volume, not just chasing sheer quantity. Quality over quantity.
And we see that quality in the branded results.
Definitely. TPV for branded experiences, online and offline combined, grew 8% FXN. And in the US, it accelerated even faster, up 10%. They are winning where it counts at the branded checkout.
How are they doing that? Any specific improvements?
Yeah, they mention optimization is key. The redesigned pay sheet, the checkout interface, is now live on over 20% of their global branded traffic.
Oh.
And here's kicker. Testing showed that combining that new pay sheet with biometrics, like using your fingerprint or Face ID to log in, increases conversion rates by 2 to 5 percentage points.
Wait, up to 5 percentage points?
Yeah.
In e-commerce conversion, that's massive.
It's huge. Think about all the abandoned carts that converts. That's real money for merchants, and it makes PayPal stickier.
Absolutely. That's tangible value.
And it ties back to creating high-value users. They dropped a really interesting stat. PayPal debit card users are way more valuable.
How much more?
They transact about 6 times more often and generate 3 times higher average revenue per active account ARPA compared to users who only use PayPal for checkout.
3 times the revenue. Why is keeping money inside the PayPal or Venmo ecosystem so valuable?
Because it changes user behavior. Once you have a balance there, you treat it more like a digital wallet or even a bank account. You use it for P2P, for everyday spending with the debit card. You're just much more embedded and loyal.
Right, they become full wallet users, not just checkout buttons. So how are they getting more of those users, especially younger ones? Venmo must be key here.
Exactly. Venmo is crucial for that strategy, and the momentum there looks really good.
What were the numbers?
Venmo TPV growth accelerated to 14%. Venmo revenue grew even faster, up 20%.
And is that revenue still just from people splitting pizza costs?
Not anymore. That's the important part. Over 45% of that revenue growth came from actual commerce people using Pay with Venmo at checkout or using the Venmo debit card.
Ah, so they're successfully monetizing the user base beyond just P2P.
Yes. They have 66 million monthly active accounts on Venmo now. The big push is converting those active users into commerce users.
Okay, and speaking of commerce, buy now, pay later, BNPL. That seems to be scaling rapidly too.
It really is. Both BNPL TPV and the number of monthly active users grew over 20% in Q3. They're forecasting around $40 billion in BNPL volume for the full year 2025.
40 billion.
Yeah.
That's a serious number. How are they managing the risk associated with that much lending?
That's where the strategy is interesting. They're using what they call a capital light approach.
Meaning
Meaning they aren't keeping all that loan risk on their own books. They actually externalized a big chunk of their U.S. BNPL receivables, the loans, to a partner, Blue Owl Capital.
Oh, okay. So they get the customer engagement, the transaction volume from offering BNPL, but they offload some of the credit risk. Smart. Makes the growth safer.
Exactly. It allows them to scale faster without taking on excessive balance sheet risk. And they're expanding it everywhere, launched in Canada, brought it in-store in the U.S., extended payment terms in places like Italy and Spain. It's becoming a core global offering.
Okay, let's shift gears to the other side of the coin, the merchants. We talked about the PSP business, the plumbing. Even while trimming the low end, overall PSP TPV growth actually accelerated to 6% FXN.
How? By adding value beyond just basic processing, they're embedding services that solve real problems for merchants, making the processing stickier and more profitable.
Like what?
Things like the Big Commerce Payments embedded solution. It gives merchants unified balance management, reporting, everything integrated right into their e-commerce platform. Super convenient.
And you mentioned cost savings earlier.
Huge ones. They have features like smart debit routing, which they say cuts transaction costs by 15%. That goes straight to the merchant's bottom line.
Yeah.
And FX as a service for cross-border sellers, saving them up to 20 basis points on currency conversion. These aren't just bells and whistles. They're real cost savers that build loyalty.
It sounds like they're competing on value-added services, not just the lowest processing rate.
That's the idea. And the next big step is closing the online-offline loop. They're launching their omni-channel physical retail solution in Q4, partnering with Verifone for the terminals.
Taking the fight to the traditional point-of-sale players.
Directly. But looking even further ahead, the really exciting stuff, maybe the most important long-term bets, are what they're calling next-gen growth vectors.
This is where it gets futuristic, right? AI and stuff.
Pretty much. We're talking about agentic commerce services. Basically, payments powered by AI.
Okay, break that down. What does agentic commerce mean?
Think about a future where you don't browse and click buy yourself. Instead, you ask an AI assistant, like something from Google or OpenAI or Perplexity, who are all partners they mentioned, hey, find and buy me the best noise-canceling headphones under $300.
Right. The AI does the shopping.
Exactly. And that AI agent needs a payment system it can trust to execute the purchase automatically and securely. PayPal is positioning itself to be that system, the payment layer for AI-driven commerce.
So they're partnering with the big AI players to be embedded right into that flow.
That seems to be the strategy. Google, MasterCard, OpenAI, Perplexity. They're building the payment rails for when AI does the buying. It shifts the payment decision point.
Interesting. Instead of the payment being the last step, it's integrated into the AI's decision process.
Right. And this next-gen thinking isn't just AI. It includes PayPal World, their effort to enable more global, frictionless money movement. They're piloting transactions and adding partners like ENN and Ordo FinTech in the Middle East.
Expanding their network beyond traditional corridors.
Yep. And one more piece on that global front, crypto and stablecoins. Their own stablecoin, PYUSD, PayPal USD, now has a market cap over $2.5 billion.
$2.5 billion already.
Yeah, and they've integrated pay with crypto into their P2P system. They're clearly leveraging their huge user base to push stablecoin adoption for easier, maybe cheaper cross-border payments.
So all this momentum, this strategic execution, the strong financials, it all comes back to how they use the cash they're generating.
It does. And they're delivering on their promises to shareholders. With that strong FCF, they returned $1.5 billion through share buybacks just in Q3.
Okay.
That brings the total over the last 12 months to $5.7 billion returned via buybacks, which reduced the number of outstanding shares by about 6%. That boosts EPS for the remaining shareholders.
And then the news that caught many eyes, the dividend.
The big signal of confidence and maturity, yes. They initiated a quarterly cash dividend of $0.14 per share starting in December 2025.
How does that fit into their overall capital return?
They said it represents a target payout ratio of about 10% of their non-GAAP net income. It's a signal that they believe they can consistently generate enough cash to invest in growth and return a significant amount to shareholders through both buybacks and now dividends. Discipline and growth together.
So wrapping this up for you, the listener, the story of PayPal's Q3 isn't really about a slowdown, despite that drop in total transactions. It's actually about sharp execution, strategic clarity.
Yeah, that shift away from chasing low-value, unbranded volume seems to be paying off. It's resulting in a stronger core business that's focused on high-quality engagement. They know what kind of customer they want. It feels like a real change in philosophy. They're diversifying where the growth comes from. Venmo, the core branded checkout, high-value merchant services. It makes the whole platform more resilient, less dependent on just one thing.
And they're clearly building for the future, not just optimizing the present.
Definitely. Building the payment system for what commerce might look like tomorrow, not just tweaking today's e-commerce checkout.
That was a fantastic deep dive into what felt like a pretty complex quarter. But let's leave you with one final thought to chew on, building on those AI partnerships we discussed.
Okay.
We talked about PayPal moving into agentic commerce with OpenAI, Google, Perplexity. If your AI assistant is going to handle finding products, negotiating, maybe even clicking buy for you, where does the actual payment decision live then? If the shopping choice is made by the AI, what does that mean for the digital wallet as we know it? Does the wallet still sit with you, the user, or does it somehow live within the AI agent itself? Where is the point of control in the age of agentic commerce?
That's a fascinating question, something to definitely think about as AI gets more involved in our transactions.
Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.
We'll see you next time.